oh my gosh, I'm going to die. At 5, 6 years old, I was thinking this. And it was pretty scary. And I finally got to a point where I knew I couldn't hold my breath anymore. And so I just surrendered. I just said, okay, I'm going to die. What I realized was there is a life after death, that I didn't need to be afraid. I knew what happened, but it was kind of like it was my own special gift. It's just a knowing and total conviction and other things, if you think about in life, that you're so totally convicted on and nobody can change your mind. You just know. And so that's what I want to provide. After this life, it's not like you disappear. Our spirit continues to move on. We still continue to exist. There's way more than just this life.
The A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
I'm here with Paula Hui. I met her at an IANS sharing group, and she drowned when she was a little girl, and she had an amazing near-death experience. Hello, Paula. How are you?
Hi, AJ. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'd like to learn more about your story. Can you begin telling us how this happened?
I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my family, we lived in Hawaii. And the whole family decided we would go out to the beach, to the ocean. And that was just something fun that we enjoyed doing. And this one particular day when we went out, my mother and 2 of my siblings were out on the shore making sand castles or whatever, playing. My other 2 siblings, they were out surfing in the water. And my father took my twin sister and I out in the water. And we went out into the water. The water was about his waist level. And it was a lot of fun. We were jumping the waves, and the water felt really salty and splash in our face. And I thought it was a lot of fun. Not necessarily sure my sister liked it, but I thought it was a lot of fun. And we would just jump the waves. And one time a wave came and my dad lost balance. And I saw my sister go off in one of his arms, and he went to go grab her. And that's when I slipped out of his arms. I knew that he would go after her first because she's special needs and it didn't bother me. However, I didn't know how to swim. And I remember going under the water. I didn't know how to get up above the water. So I was frantically moving my arms, trying to get above the water. And I was unsuccessful. And I would see my father in the water, and then I wouldn't see him. And then I'd see him again, and then I wouldn't see him. But through time, it felt like I was going farther and farther away from him. In the meanwhile, I'm holding my breath and trying to still swim to get up above the water, but I couldn't. And there came a point where I was starting to get scared because I couldn't keep holding my breath. And then there came a point where I was feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And I remember that going through my head often. I'm going to die. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. At 5, 6 years old, I was thinking this. And it was pretty scary. And I finally got to a point where I knew I couldn't hold my breath anymore. And so I just surrendered. I just said, okay, I'm going to die. It's okay. It's okay. And I slowly started allowing water in my mouth. There was a second where it was black, but then very instantly, all of a sudden, I'm in this area, this tunnel of water, beautiful blue water mixed with white. And it was swirling around this tunnel of water. And I left my body. And the thought of breathing wasn't a concern because I didn't have to breathe. And I didn't know how to swim, but I wasn't concerned about it. So in this tunnel of water, at the very distance, way down there, I don't remember how many feet, it seemed long, maybe 100 feet. There was a bright light at the end of the tunnel. And I was excited about it because I just felt this beautiful joy and sense of love surrounding me and through me and everywhere. And so I just started swimming towards that light. I was so happy. I forgot that I didn't know how to swim, but I could swim. And I was swimming as fast as I could because I wanted to get to the end of the tunnel where I could see that bright light at the end. And, at times I was just looking to the side of me and I just felt it so beautiful and full of love and peace. And when I got almost to the end, probably it was about 20 feet before I got to the very end. And I knew I was going to almost get there to this light when abruptly I went back into my body because my father had grabbed me, brought me up above the water. And I remember all this water gushing out of my mouth. I mean, like tons of water. And I started choking and I was crying. And it was just so abrupt because I was almost at the end of the tunnel and it stopped. And my dad brought me back to the ocean side. And I never told my parents what happened. It wasn't that I was ashamed. I knew what happened, but it was kind of like it was my own special gift, an experience that was just for me. I was also raised very devout religious. And although what I realized was there is a life after death, or at least in this life here, that I didn't need to be afraid. I was raised Mormon, LDS. My understanding at a very young age was when you die, you're in this holding kind of existence by yourself, lonely, and waiting for the second coming of Christ. So until that time, even when the second coming of Christ was to come, that only if you were good enough, if you were worthy enough, if you were all these conditions, then you would have eternal life and be reunited, hopefully, with your family. And so I never believed that. I always felt that that was a conflict from what I experienced after leaving this life. Because I even felt, I was so excited and felt so much love all around me and through me and going through that tunnel of water to that light that I knew it was even going to be even more grand and more full of love. And just this inner knowing I would probably be united with others. I wouldn't be in some holding place. But I never told my parents that. It was just something that it was a knowing that I had, and it was a special experience for me. As I've gotten to be as an adult, I mean, I did leave the church in my early 20s and gone through this evolution of spirituality. The God I believed then is not the same as I believe now. And I've been able to help my friends, particularly like a girlfriend who went through hospice. She was really afraid of dying. And I am so grateful. I feel like that was a gift that I had, this inner knowing that there's just so much more than this life, that I was able to help her transition to when she passed. And she was at peace. Before, she was so afraid. But having lots of conversations, and I did see her going in and out of this life and the afterlife because she would tell me what she was saying, or that she couldn't explain what she was seeing, but it was so beautiful and so wonderful and so loving. But I knew, or at least I felt I knew, because I had experienced that. So I believe that near-death experience is just my experience is an example of just another but greater existence, because I do believe we are spiritual beings having human experiences. So that's wonderful and exciting to know that after this life, it's not like you disappear. Our spirit continues to move on. We still continue to exist. It's just another level of existence.
When did you start sharing this? Did you share it with anyone else?
I never shared my NDE until, gosh, just maybe a couple years ago. I'm an author writer, and I started writing this about 6 years ago. But I only started sharing the last couple years with others because I know it happened, as well as other people that have had NDE experiences. No one can tell me that it didn't. It's just a knowing and total conviction and other things, if you think about in life, that you're so totally convicted on and nobody can change your mind. You just know. And that's what happened with me. I know that it happened, and it was beautiful. I'm fortunate to have had a great, wonderful, loving experience. I know others who haven't, but perhaps it's because I was so young that I hadn't lived years of life. So then as, older, sharing with others or having to adjust to what just happened, to me, I just accepted it. So maybe it had to do with my age. I don't know.
When did you learn about near-death experiences, and when did you realize this was an NDE?
Well, probably, I would say about 5 years ago. I've always felt that the afterlife has always been fascinating to me. And when I started reading books and YouTube and others, podcasts, whatever, talking about the afterlife, I came to realize, and I think that's when it really came to me to go, I had one. Like before, I would think, oh, it happened, but I didn't really see the greatness of it. But perhaps maybe I needed to evolve to where I am today to accept it and to see the gift in it. And that it wasn't crazy, that it really did happen to me, and to embrace it. So I would say I've always had this interest in it, and I still do to this day. Obviously, I'm part of Ian's group. That's how I met you. And I just love it. There's so much more that we all don't know, and that's okay. But if you want to learn more, there's so many great resources, as well as, for example, your channel. And you just have to make that paradigm shift to think outside the box that exists. And I think when you make that paradigm shift and to believe that, well, maybe maybe it is possible an afterlife after this, the more you perhaps delve deeper within, you have all those answers within. We all have those answers within. And I think that you'll get more clarity and more understanding the more you educate yourself.
Did you have any other spiritual experience throughout your life?
I definitely meditate regularly, just diving deep within. I have been experiencing different sets of the clairs. I know I've always had this deeper sense of knowing and intuition and seeing things that even as a young child that a lot of people don't perhaps understand or see or know. I see that as a gift. And it's not something that I tell people, but it's just a sensing that I've always had within me since a young child, of knowing things.
This is the first time you share this publicly, right?
Yes.
And what made you decide to do this?
Well, I believe that We go through experiences in life and we may not understand things or fully grasp it. But once we do, if we can see it as a gift of things that we have experienced, maybe you could help others. And so that is my hope, not only through my NDE, but my other life experiences and traumatic experiences that I've had, that we can shift. I can make that positive difference to others, to shift that way of thinking, to look at their life in a deeper, more meaningful way with love and compassion, that everything that happens to us or not to us or whatever, it's always for us. And it's being able to shift and see it in a different light. And I think that's where the growth and the joy comes from. And so that's what I want to provide is, with living in the present with mindfulness and awareness in the present. That's where joy comes from, not in the past or not in the future. And I'm not saying to deny your feelings and the things that you go through, but to observe it, to see it, but not let it control you. Because there's so much that I'm grateful for. And I have learned that if I live in the present, I'm much more aware of things and I have much more joy in my life. So I'm not afraid to share it with people now because I see it as a gift, having my ND.
When you started sharing this among your friends or your relatives, did you get any negative reaction? And why did it take so long for you to start sharing it publicly?
Well, I am selective in who I share. Okay. I don't just tell anybody. It's the same thing with, I don't know, it's like I really go with my gut intuition and feeling to decide who I want to share with, because not everybody's open to hearing that. I think those that are open and want to learn more about life, our purpose, afterlife, they're the ones that are going to be more open and understanding. And no, I've not had any negative responses from anyone. I've had those that don't say anything, but that's okay. And then I have those that go, wow, that is just so cool. And thank you for telling me. It gives me hope that I don't need to be afraid. There is so much more than this life. Just like my girlfriend who I helped with hospice.
What did you tell your friend exactly? And did she die shortly after you told this to her? Or did you share your experience with her?
Yes, she passed away about a month after I talked with her. I talked to her for days when she was living with me until her family was able to come back in town because they lived in Europe and in the East Coast. This was when I was in Texas. And what's interesting is we never talked about spiritual aspects as friends. We were friends for a good 3 years and never talked about spiritual things. So I found that really interesting when she was released from the hospital and had to stay with someone. She had called me and asked me if she could stay with me. And then that's when she started telling me maybe it was her higher self knowing that I had an opinion on that because we never spoke about it. So I feel like that's divine. That's divine that that happened. And so she would tell me how much she was afraid of dying. She didn't know what was going to happen. And she was also afraid of her child and what was going to happen with him. So I reassured her, she's done her best. She's raised him. He's an adult. You don't need to worry. He's successful. You've done your job. So you can let that go. He'll be fine. And then it's just the knowing that I had of saying you're going to be reunited, because I definitely believe that. Even though I didn't experience that, it's just the knowing that I had, that I just felt like that's what's going to happen when we leave this place, is that we're going to have our those that have passed on before us, or our other souls, other friends, relatives that passed on, will be there to greet us. And so I told her that. I told her, your parents, your siblings, your relatives that have passed on, your friends, they're going to be right there waiting for you. It's going to be a celebration. So you don't need to worry about it. They're going to be so happy. And I kind of think that she started understanding that, because we would have discussions in the mornings where she would say, "Oh my gosh, I saw," and she would tell me somebody that she saw, and oh, how beautiful it was, and the colors, and the 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 flowers and plants, and it's as if it was just so much more vibrant and beautiful. And so I knew she was kind of going in this life and the afterlife. The veil is very thin. So by the time she left this life, I know she was at peace.
What are your religious beliefs now?
Well, my religious beliefs now is that there's so much more than just this life. We're here to experience what we set out before we came here, like a soul contract to experience certain things in this life. And that's why we have the veil, because if we knew everything, then what's the purpose of coming here? We have a body to experience the senses that we don't have in spirit form. So we come here to experience and learn and grow. And it's not a judgmental kind of thing that where I was raised before. You come here, if you don't live a certain way, if you don't, kind of in this box of thinking within the religion that I was raised, you're not going to have eternal life. You're not going to exist anymore. You're going to be in hell, I guess you'd say that. I don't know the term, but it would be a very lonely and fearful existence. And I don't believe that anymore. I started questioning all that when I was in my 20s, that there has to be more than this. Like the divine, the essence, the God that is everywhere, that's created everything, you, me, and within us, is everywhere and is all about love. It is not judgmental. And, well, that's the word, judgmental.
What is your relationship with God right now, or the divine?
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. I love my life. I am, when you are living your truth, when you are total in alignment with who you are, not concerned about the past, the present, what others think, you're living who you are and getting really deep and clear and seeing that your life is all good and purposeful. That's being in alignment with you, with divine, with God. And I think it's beautiful. I don't have stress. I don't have the anxiety that this world and our culture is. I'm not saying I'm immune, because, yeah, life is full of ebbs and flows, but it's how you act on those ebbs and flows. That's where your joy comes from. And when I'm off balance, when I feel a little angst about something or not concerned or whatever, I go meditate. And meditate to me is going into a space of quietness. I like to lay down. Sometimes I sit up. And focusing on my breath, letting all the thoughts disappear, and diving within and being in this mode of gratitude to calm me. And sometimes I have the intentions when I meditate that I'm wanting some clarity on something. And when I meditate, I feel like I get those answers, because I've stopped all the noise and go into the space of that's in alignment with me and divine.
You've been going to these IANS sharing groups, the International Association for Near-Death Studies. Do you
Yes.
think these meetings have changed you? Why do you like to go and share with other people who have had similar experiences? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Funny thing is that I didn't even know about ions. It was another friend of mine that when I told her about my near-death experience, she said, "Hey, did you know that there's a group called Ions Online that you can go participate in?" I didn't even know that it existed. So this was just 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And so that's when I started going to Ions. And I I love it because it's such a wonderful space where you can hear other people's stories or their spiritual journey. You can share yourself, and there's no judgment. There's just this wonderful connection that we understand each other. It's just this knowing we get it. And it's a sense of community and a sense of, I guess, belonging of that we have something in common and that you're not the only one that's experienced this. There's many others. And then also hearing the different experiences that everyone has had, some similar, some totally different, some more traumatic, some still dealing with what happened, and some of them in more detail than what I experienced. But it's a great place to share in a safe environment where no one is going to judge you and to help each other process whatever, know that it's all good. So I like that sense of community.
Would you recommend someone who has had a near-death experience and has
Oh,
not shared it?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I would recommend it. I would recommend those that have had near-death experiences or some spiritual transformational experiences. I've actually invited another friend of mine to come join, actually a couple friends of mine to come join. And that's how it works, right? By referral, somebody says, "Hey, you might like this." And if it's not for you, no biggie. But I definitely would say to go check it out. You would be surprised on how you're not alone, that it does exist, near-death experiences. And you can see that when you, through books and podcasts, even yours, that we don't make it up. I mean, we're not going to make it up. That's a waste of energy. But it's wonderful just to know that, because I kind of questioned, there was maybe a little time where I was like, oh, that didn't happen, or maybe it did happen. I don't know. But now, obviously, in the last 6 years, I've come to the full acceptance that that did happen. And it's not a bad thing. And it's not something to be ashamed of or even try to convince others about something, even if they don't believe you or understand. It's an experience that we had, and I am grateful for my experience. I think it's a gift.
Right now, you're writing your story in a book and you've written other books. So can you tell us about that? And how can people contact you if they're interested in communicating
Well,
with you?
okay, so I am writing several books. And yes, my near-death experience is in my first book. Right now, it hasn't come out. So if you want to learn when I do have it out, it should be out this year, email me. And then I will let you know personally and just put on the subject line with want to know about your book. And then I'll let you know when it comes out. But my email is my name, Paula, Paula, at, and then my first name, last name, PaulaHui.com. So Paula at PaulaHui.com, if that makes sense.
Do you have any final message you would like to share?
I feel like I've said everything that I wanted to say, but what perhaps just hopefully if somebody listening to this is probably very curious about those who've experienced near-death experiences or spiritual experiences, transformational experiences. And if you can just, which you are, open up your heart and be open to the possibilities that there is possibly more than just this life. And there's so much more that perhaps we all don't know. I feel like if you can shift that, you would be amazed at so much more that you can learn to give you hope. And then perhaps for me anyways, like it's changed my life. I have much more joy in my life because I know that this isn't it, this life. There's way more than just this life. And so I would just encourage to keep growing, keep learning, because that's why we're here.
Hi, I'm Janet Riley, and I'm the Executive Director of the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I am thrilled to invite you to join us at our annual conference, August 27th to the 31st in Oak Brook, Illinois, just outside Chicago, where we will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the field of near-death studies. Join us for 4 inspiring days with more than 100 speakers, including the legendary Life After Life author Raymond Moody, University of Virginia Professor Emeritus Dr. Bruce Grayson, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell of the Telepathy Tapes, the psychic lawyer Mark Anthony, and spiritual teacher Carolyn Mace, among others. You'll experience healing workshops, including meditation, Reiki, spiritual counseling, and our beloved bookstore with exclusive book signings, surrounded by others who share your interests and your experiences. Come make friends and become part of a warm, caring community that will beckon you to return. Every year, we welcome nearly 1,000 attendees and serve over 20,000 globally through educational resources and support groups. This warm, deeply connected community celebrates life and the life that follows. For nearly 50 years, IANS has represented researchers who study near-death experiences and supported those who have had near-death experiences and experienced related phenomena. Our mission is to educate the world. Our hope is that by supporting research and people, and by communicating far and wide to reporters, podcasters, and through our website and social media, we can normalize discussions about death and the afterlife and help answer the very important question: what happens when we die? Our planet faces unprecedented challenges, and our conference offers a place to recharge, to be informed, to be healed and inspired. Register now at iands.org, that's IANDS.org, and become part of a gathering that informs, heals, and inspires. We hope to see you there.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.